What is the greatest concern for the future of baseball? The answer is clear. Pitchers' health. Today, pitchers are throwing fewer innings than ever before, and yet injuries are at an all-time high. In fact, we now see more Tommy John surgeries in a single year than we did in an entire decade. So what's driving this epidemic? Is it the relentless push for velocity where speed eclipses everything else? Is it the ticking of the pitch clock, forcing more pressure, less time, and fewer breaks? Could it be the crackdown on sticky stuff, stripping pitchers of their once reliable grip? Or is it a perfect storm, a combination of all these factors crashing together with devastating force? The hard truth is, there is a solution. However, this would completely alter the game that fans know and love today. It would force owners and teams to grow accustomed to a new wave of thinking. The real question isn't just what's causing the damage, it's how far we're willing to go to protect the very foundation of the game. How do we preserve the longevity of pitchers' careers without sacrificing the future of baseball itself? I think I figured it out. Baddies, it is my first long-form video. I am so excited. If you're here from TikTok or IG, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Kate and I've made a career out of teaching women, casual, and new fans about baseball. Pitchers' health has been a huge concern in the past couple of years, but this has actually been going on for the past decade. MLB releases a report this year where they interviewed 200 experts trying to get to the root cause of pitchers' injuries. I read the full report. There are a lot of takeaways. So when we want to get to the root of a problem, we want to see where the biggest jump increased, right? So there are a few graphics that really stood out to me off the bat. Pitchers' IL placements from day 2 through the end of the season. The jump from 2019 to 2021 is massive. We are looking at about a 50% increase. So we need to go back, put our lenses on and say, what was going on in 2019 to 2021? Obviously in 2020, there was the pandemic. Now, 2020 is interesting because pitchers were going through different type of training regimens. Obviously, we were unsure about the season, and I was always under the impression that pitchers take a long time off. I spoke with pitchers at the professional level who said they actually throw pretty consistently in the off season. So that could be a factor in 2020. They weren't pitching as much. That could be the reason why there was that big spike. Sticky stuff. In June of 2021, MLB releases the ban of sticky stuff. This was mainly due to the fact that the batting average was at an all-time low, and we were like, nobody's hitting. What are the pitchers doing? I also want to add this in. Previously, the enforcement of this rule was up to the managers. So if the managers thought another pitcher was using something, they had every right to go tell the umpire, hey, can you check his hand for a substance? Now, do you want to know why that became less common over the years? Because if he did that, they'd do it to their own pitcher. Tyler Glasnow did an interview that went crazy viral where he said, yeah, I think that did contribute to me getting injured. And he said it's only because they did it in the middle of the season. So I find this chart interesting for a couple of reasons because there is no data to support this. They really didn't have enough research to suggest that maybe banning of illegal substances has contributed to pitchers getting injured more. But it is fascinating to me that in 2021, day 2 through the end of the season, we saw 450 pitchers on the IL. 450. Now, do I think sticky stuff is the root cause? Absolutely not, because then you see the dip when pitchers get accustomed to it in 2023, we start to go down a little bit more. But I think if it's something that a pitcher was using every single time he went out there to start, could have impacted him getting injured. There's an old adage in baseball where it's, are you a pitcher or are you a thrower? Unfortunately, I think a lot of our pitchers today are throwers, which is not their fault. I would do the same thing. If you want to chase money and a contract and getting on a good team, yeah, you have to be throwing the hardest in Major League Baseball. I'm gonna read some quotes from this article. I used to pitch to chase outs, a former MLB pitcher said in the study. Now they chase velocity. I had to play a chess match to try to get to 24 or 27 outs. Now it's a sprint to go as hard as you can, as long as you can. Starters have a reliever's mentality now. Let's say 20% of pitches were as hard as I could. Once I got into a strikeout situation, I'm just trying to put you away and get up on it a little better. If you didn't get to 3 times around the order, if you didn't get to the 8th inning, you shouldn't expect a win. Nowadays, you know you're only going to the 5th inning and you start throwing as hard as you can. You hear this intense in velocity at the minor league level and at the professional level, right? You ask these experts, can a pitcher sustain throwing 100 miles per hour consistently for his career? They look you dead in the eye and say, no, it's not sustainable. I never went on the IL in 10 plus years, and I'm not superhuman, but 2 things worked in my favor. Over the course of the game, I would throw 6 to 10 pitches as fast as I could, but the rest of us had to play cat and mouse to get through the lineup 3 or 4 times. Makes a really good point. We're looking at pitchers today like, oh, he's seeing him the 3rd time through the order. Get him out of there. These pitchers in the 90s consistently get through the lineup 3 or 4 times. And the problem with trying to adapt to this pitching chess game mentality is that Hitters are at an all-time high, right? They're among the greatest that we've ever seen before. I mean, Aaron Judge is a prime example. 60-plus home runs in a season hadn't been done since Roger Maris. The other guys that did it were using steroids. So obviously, pitchers are going to gear it up and throw as hard as they can, chase ERA, chase strikeouts. Now, this other diagram that Jesse Rogers pointed out, I want to focus on because they're also chasing their spin rate. Four-seam slider, curveball, and changeup has all increased from 2008 to 2024. Now, their training regimen. So this is interesting in relation to their velocity because they're almost training more as a relief pitcher than they are as a starting pitcher. A de-emphasis in cardiovascular and endurance training, and now they are in favor of power and strength-focused training. Power and strength-focused training is what? Short bursts of energy, and how hard can I throw for a short amount of time? Solution. There is one. I don't really know how we're going to get this into Major League Baseball. We were floating around with the idea of pitchers having to go 6 innings in a game. Unless you give out a certain amount of runs, your pitch count is super high, like there would be things that we need to work through for that. He did say this: I think we need to create incentives through things like roster rules, transaction rules for clubs to develop pitchers who go deeper in the game. But I don't think it can be prescriptive, you have to go 6 innings. I don't think we can force pitchers to go 6 innings in a game. MLB's innings per rate declined over the years, went from 6.3 to 5.9 to 5.2. But I think with the emphasis on relievers, you have so many on your roster that can just come into a game. It's hard for a team to have to restructure their entire mindset and thinking and aim for pitchers to throw longer into games. John Smoltz brought this up. If you incentivize pitchers, I'm not saying you have to throw 6 innings, but if you carry less pitchers on the roster, or if you give them an incentive to pitch longer into games, they wouldn't physically be able to sustain that. Unfortunately, guys that are topping out at 100 miles per hour in the 6th, 7th inning are not going to be able to sustain that for multiple years to come. If you have 2 pitchers, one is throwing 95 miles per hour, getting guys out, maybe not a lot of strikeouts, but he's getting the ball in play, he's doing a good job, he has a low ERA. You have another guy that's throwing 98, little bit of a higher ERA, striking guys out a little bit more, they're going to take that one over the one that's throwing 95 miles per hour. So if you're a young athlete, you're going through the minor leagues, you are just trying to gear up and throw as hard as you possibly can to get a contract. The CBA is up in 2026, so it's going to be interesting what the players negotiate, what the ownerships negotiate, and hopefully they can come to some type of decision so we don't have a halt in Major League Baseball. We want pitchers to have long careers, to be able to be healthy and contribute to their team winning. This slope that we're on, I don't think is in a positive direction, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how we can solve this problem. Thank you guys for watching my first long form video. I'm so excited. Remember to subscribe. It would mean the world to me. And I love you baddies. Go show off this week.